This is a short recording of the steps I took as I was building my Balsa USA Spad 13. After opening the box, I started with the tail surfaces, tried to get my hand back into it as quickly and easily as possible, and this went together fairly well. Most of the components were of good quality, so no difficulties there. It was rather enjoyable and went along fairly quickly. I did have some issues with the rudder and the tail fin. The balsa was fairly soft, and I ended up replacing the leading and trailing edge because it just didn't seem to be strong enough. Once this was done, I was waiting for material to do modifications to my wings. So I started with the fuselage sides, and there was a couple of small discrepancies there with the plans and the actual material in the kit. So there was some modifications that I had to make, nothing serious. Anyway, the rest of it went together fairly well. It put together square and straight, and not too much issues with that. Basically, construction is of balsa sticks and plywood slab sides, as you can see in the photos. Again, one issue that I did find was the tail post, when they were brought together, were actually about a ½ inch shorter than what was shown on the plan. So in an effort to increase to match the plans, I added a piece to it and changed the structure very slightly, and it won't present a problem. One modification I did do is the wire that was in the kit for the tail skid, I replaced with a bungee activated wood tail skid, and I had a little piece of copper to the bottom of that, hopefully to eliminate some of the wear. Hopefully that'll work out well. Then there was the beginning of the wings. The major modifications to the wings, because of the size, that are 80 inches long, and also the fact that there's a considerable amount of interplane struts, wires, and a nightmare to try to put this together at the field and take it apart. So I decided to make it with a 3-piece wing with the 2 center sections still attached to the fuselage, and separated just at the outboard point of the conveying struts and the fuselage. So that involved basically, I got some information from online and looked at different options and decided to go with rather than a tube, I decided to go with an aluminum, and made my own channel out of plywood and balsa wood. And as you can see in the pictures, this is what I'm doing here, putting this together. So I hope you can see in the pictures how this is working. And so far it was straightforward. Works reasonably well, although at this point I still haven't actually separated the wings, so or cut down through them. So be interested to see what happens. That's not going to happen until it's ready for cover. One thing you will notice in the wings is each wing has approximately, I believe, 54 ribs. They're only 1/16 of an inch thick, very fragile, and obviously, yeah, there was the odd one that got broken or chipped and had to be repaired. But I think that's par for the course for just about anybody. So there's the wings. The top wing was built first. That is the only wing that has ailerons. The bottom wing does not have ailerons. So the top wing was a little more work. But basically it came together well, and no issues with the material on the wings. The ailerons are built separately. If I was to do it again, I would actually build them not attached, but basically beside the wing, because I followed the alignment on the plans. But again, when I actually put the ailerons against the wing, they did not line up 100%. So I had to basically cut some of them out and re-glue them, reset them again. So that was a bit of a pain. The engine I chose to use is a RCGF 30cc twin. I'm hoping that that's going to be adequate. It should be. It also will fit inside the cowling, so there will be nothing sticking outside, which I do not like seeing wires and spark plugs and everything else sticking outside. I also did change the aileron. The ailerons were initially intended to mount with the top part of the aileron sticking out through the wing. I don't like that. So I've opted for a laying on the side with just the output arm up through a slot, a little more scale. I'd actually thought about doing what exactly the total scale on the airplane was, but that's very complex and I just did not want to get involved in that. Maybe another time. So then the bottom wing was started, again straightforward without the ailerons. Again, lots and lots of ribs, have to be very, very careful, but still very enjoyable. There was the attachment of the hard points for connections to the cabane struts and also to the fuselage, and of course hard points for the interplane struts and the intermediate struts. So, and also for the flying wires, which will be attached, and hopefully once they're adjusted, they won't have to be removed. As I mentioned, both wings will come off as a unit, and all the flying wires will stay attached. So hopefully that'll make for a speedier setup and takedown at the field. These pictures are just showing some of the components as I was installing them, and some of the procedures, the way they did it. I'm not really sure that that's the way I would have tackled some of them, but I tried to follow the instructions as closely as possible. I know when you start moving out into unknown territory, sometimes you can get yourself in a bit of a mess. So I try to improve where possible, but I don't want to stray too far from the proven course, so to speak. So here the wings are basically almost at the stage, I call it the pre-final sanding stage, and that was great because this has been a very time-consuming, long part of the build, and I was getting a little bit tired of it towards the end. So now it was on to doing some other stuff, which as you build models, you know that has to be done. There was some modifications I made to the control of the tail surfaces. The elevator, originally in the plans, called for 2 horns attached on either side with 2 nye rods basically controlling them, or push rods to them. I don't like that, it's not scale, so I decided to come up with a internal mechanism which is to scale, and that's the bracket you see being made there. So that was one of the major ones. I've also decided that the rudder is not going to have an external horn. It's going to be a pull-pull system, again to scale with the wires coming up through the empennage to the rudder. I've done that before on other models and it seems to work out well. Here was the initial layout of the bottom wing, getting it true to the fuselage and also setting the wing incidence, and it actually was almost bang on just when I put it on there. Very minor tweaking, so very happy about that. This picture here is the jig that I will be using to set the cabane struts, and once the cabane struts are installed, then there's a matter of soldering the lugs, and you can see these will be the lugs on the cabane struts, and once they're in place they'll be soldered in place, and that'll be the attachment point for the top wing. At this point, this is the end of the video. Thank you and have a great day.